I've stayed from everything Apple.
I
away
prefer
from everything
Android. I have iPhone, but I prefer Android.
You prefer Android? So did I, especially when editing this shit.
Yeah.
There's no USB port on the, like,
Yeah.
so if I'm trying to do USB to HDMI or anything, like,
You got to buy
I'm
like
screwed.
yeah.
Like, I have this stream switcher, right? That literally switches between, like, for example, the two audio feeds. On camera, people will have seen it, like, right now. I'm recording you onto this screen, and I'm recording myself of the other two feeds.
Mhm.
And I'll edit it together later. But in the audio, it's actually going on here, I hope.
We'll figure that. We'll find out.
Oh, yeah. But I'm trying to set up my phone, right? Like as a camera, because then I'm like, oh, okay, I can use that as my camera. Oh, guess
Yeah.
what? I used to do it with the Android phone. Can't do it now. My Android's sitting right there. So, yeah, welcome to the show, man. Welcome to the
thank you
Manly
for having
Girly
me,
show.
yeah.
Today it's only the Manly show or the Girly show, depending on how you look at it.
Super manly show.
I'm Arturo Lorenzo, in case anybody doesn't know already. And what's your name, my friend?
My name is Hunter Edwards. Hunter
Okay.
Edwards.
Yeah. Do you go by any other names?
I've started trying to go by Hunter Luke Edwards for on stage, but every time I do that, every host is like, "Oh, 3 names, like a serial killer," and they're the same
Really?
joke every single time. And I'm like, it's kind of dumb because what serial killer had 3 names? Like Jeffrey
Yeah, I was
Dahmer,
just trying
Ted
to think.
Bundy, like
Which serial killer has 3 names?
Osama bin Laden. That was about
Yeah,
it. But
George W. Bush.
George
No.
W. Barack Hussein. No, but yeah. So I don't know. I try to do like maybe like Hunter Luke or if we're on stage, and then I'm just like, screw it. I'll just do Hunter Luke Edwards, and then either Hunter Edwards. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. And I met you. We were just talking about before we started doing comedy, right? You're a stand-up comedian.
Yes, we were doing comedy. You walked right in and sat at the table at the very front, and I had no idea what was going on.
Oh, perfect. That's what we're aiming for.
I was like, okay, I guess this is happening.
That's funny because I've had people like 'cause I started doing it after I started doing comedy, right? Like the kind of mix of Gaddafi dictator, like
Yeah, you have the dictator
Frank
look.
from The Office. I've ordered some new things that like we at a church we keep upping it,
Oh, good.
Yeah. I've had people that didn't know me that I hadn't met before. It might have been you. I forget who said. It's like, oh, I thought you were non-binary, and I was like, oh no.
Oh no, I didn't think that.
No,
I thought you might have owned like a Tommy Hilfiger.
Oh,
like,
you know what? I think it was Harrison.
that makes-
I was like,
Yeah.
no, bro. He's like, I didn't want to assume. I'm like, you must be Gen Z.
yeah, that sounds like Harrison. That's funny. I was
No,
just like, that's a dude, but
no, it was pretty funny because everybody that had seen me do it,
Yeah.
like, what the fuck is Arturo doing, and it stuck, and especially it really came with this whole like identifying, right? Like, I can tell you that the American dream is alive and well. Like, I moved here from Peru. I was born in Peru,
Oh,
and I
wow.
lived there as a kid. I lived there until I was 13. More or less. I lived in Pennsylvania for a year between there and like half a year in Venezuela. But she came from basically, middle class
yeah.
and in Peru, middle class, there's 2 classes. It's either you're in the service, live-in mates are a thing there. Like it's affordable for a middle class family to have it. Or you're a person that employs, the main, right? And then there's the stratosphere like there is everywhere, right? And she came here and she went to clean office buildings at night, right? Like, all of a sudden, like working in the middle of the night, like she put me in a private school, so I had like an international visa. She ended up meeting this Cuban guy, got married, right? But she went through like, rebuilding, like where I had to start working right after, like right when I became like age work, I was starting contributing to the house, right? But I forget where we even started with this.
You said that the American dream was alive because Harrison asked you
American
what your
dream
pronouns
is
were.
alive and well,
Yeah.
right? So all of a sudden she came, right? Like she owned her little piece, and she had the freedom. And I think that, and especially the whole character is, right? I think that we no longer feel free. Like people, I feel like people don't feel free, right? And you might make the argument, oh, a corporation can silence you or not. But if everybody's on there, right? Like,
yeah.
And I don't know. I guess I have a positive outlook at America. Like, are there challenges? 100%, right? But I think we need context, and especially I think sometimes if we haven't had a different experience, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the things are a little too soft. Like we've had a good time. Right? Isn't able to challenge the U.S. in a while on land on
Mm-hmm.
our soil. Never, right? Like nobody ever thinks that a nuke's gonna land here. I can tell you that.
I don't think that, but I mean, I feel like we go through the same scares like almost every
Yeah,
election cycle. It's like, oh, this guy has a nuke, he's gonna nuke us, like unless you vote for us, or like da da da. Or they're like, well, this guy has a nuke, or this, and we're like, all right, who's gonna do it?
yeah. Who's gonna do it? And at some point, like I'll tell you, and maybe that's the thing. One thing about Peru, right? As a kid, there used to be this terrorist group in Peru called the Shining Path, headed by this guy Abimael Guzman. And there used to be legit car bombs. So let's say we're in Peru. I'm
Mm.
a 6-year-old kid. All of a sudden, you hear boom, and the power goes off. All of a sudden, you
Jeez.
knew a car bomb hit. They would hit the power plants. They would hit the infrastructure. And
Yeah.
what you were really listening for is like, how far away is it? Is it close enough to where I have to worry? Or is
Mm.
it like, okay, power will come back, the grid will just divert, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and at some point, and I talk to Andy about this all the time, there's a difference. You have to make a choice. You're either going to live or survive, right?
yeah. Mm.
You're either going to be, regardless of what happens to you, you're either going to be, take life is how you take it, right? So you're either
Yeah.
going to be a victim or a survivor, right? You're going to carry that chip on your shoulder or you're not. And I would argue that you're going to have much better results
Mm.
if you're a survivor, because otherwise, yes, everything happens, right? But regardless of what happened, what can you do? And what can you
Mm.
succeed? Or I can always be like, well, I could never do this because this happened to me. That may be true. Like this may have happened to you, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you adjust and you find another way, right? Like,
Mhm.
and I don't
Figure it
know.
out.
I don't like the pessimism that is about like, oh, how America sucks. You feel it in the zeitgeist, or maybe it's just I
Yeah.
see it. It's kind of nuts. What do you think?
I think, yeah, I hate it because people are like, oh yeah, America sucks. Like, yeah, I get like there's like shit that happen. Oh, can I cuss on this?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah, we'll
there's
bleep it
like
out.
there's fucking bullshit that happens. That yeah, I get like our government sucks and like there's stuff that happens obviously that's bad. But like people like you said, like you wake up and you're like, oh, some guy's car's exploded. And then like people over here like, you didn't write he they on my fucking Starbucks order.
Yeah.
Like it's like your shit's not like I feel like especially here, like so much opportunity for shit. Like I literally before I got here, I was just picking up people's food on my like with my phone. Like, you need a cell phone and a car. Not even a car, you need a cell phone and a bike.
Yeah.
And you can make money. And people are like, well, I have like, I have all this debt. I'm like, work to pay it off. Like it's not. And then like that's the thing too. You can't say that. You can't say, oh, well, you get up and work. Well, there's people that can't work. I get
Yeah.
that, and like, but you can. So
Yeah.
shut up.
Exactly.
you can.
You can. You can. Exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. You can, and it's like 100%. And it's like, um, you can. And what are you like? It's like do more and stop bitching about it a
Yeah,
little bit.
I would never go to a guy in a wheelchair and be like, stand up for yourself, like go get a job. But if you're just sitting there and you're like, yeah, like my life, I'm like, shut up, get
Yeah.
up, shut up, go do something. Like it's stop putting yourself in other people's shoes for like to be sad about shit.
I like this. Stop putting yourself in other people's shoes, right? Like we almost went too off the deep end, right? Like where it's almost like you can't be an asshole that only thinks about yourself, right? You can't be full of ego, right?
Yeah.
There is something, and this is great because I love this concept, right? This philosophy, right? Like this concept of philosophy. I think, there's, have you heard of, I think it was Nietzsche or whatever that said, we've killed God or God is dead or whatever, right? We used to draw morality from religions, etc., right? These things, our technology has shown us that a lot of things are changing, right? And maybe there's a lot of religions, right? There's freedom of religion and whatnot, right?
Right.
So if AI can drive your car, right, that is very akin to godlike powers. And so we've killed God, right? So in the face of that, like people are like almost these religions used to say the meek will inherit the earth because in reality the strong will inherit the earth because they'll take over all the weak. They'll just that's how Genghis Khan was able to like take over everything, right? So we do need to be compassionate, right, about the ones that can't, right? Like, because otherwise we're Genghis Khan, right? Otherwise we just live in a world full of strong men, right?
Yeah, no, I get that too because like you said, the meek and stuff. Like I grew up Southern Baptist, like Christian and
Yeah.
stuff, and so yeah, you're taught like, oh, the meek will inherit the earth, and like you're taught to turn the other cheek and stuff. But I think people take that out of context. They take it as like, oh, I'm gonna sit here by a little corner and be sad and hope the world.
Right.
It's like, dude, did you not read the story when I'm gonna mess it up? But like Jesus went to the church and they were like doing taxes and like selling animals, and dude started flipping tables and like whipping people, and it's like.
Yeah.
You can, like you said, you can still be like this tough dude and still be compassionate and still love others and still like, it's not about just sitting there waiting for, I use this all the time. So like people, I'm kind of jumping around. Sorry.
No, you're good.
People are like, if God was real, why hasn't he, sent people to help people in Africa, or why is this? And I'm like, or like, why hasn't he answered my prayer to like do this? And I'm always like, don't you ever think that maybe like, the answer to your prayer was you doing it? Like, don't sit here and be like, why is God not doing something for these homeless people? Like, maybe because you need to start doing something for homeless people. Like, you're praying, like, God, please do something for this person. And he's like, that's why you're there, bro. Like, that's why you're here. And we take it as like, it's like a wishing well.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, like dude, I hate those like TV pastors and stuff like Joel Osteen.
No,
like,
yeah. Grifters.
Dude, I remember one night I was watching TV and I forgot who it was. They said they were selling cloth that had Jesus's blood on it from when he was crucified. And they're like, if you buy this and you pray real hard over it and you'll be rich and and I'm like, dude, people like this are evil. Like that's pure, unadulterated evil. But yeah, like I said, I'm jumping. But
no, you're good.
yeah, everyone wants to be a victim. If you're not a victim, people can't feel sorry for you. If you can't feel sorry for me, then it's like, well, what do I like? This is what I want. I want you to feel sorry for me.
Well, yeah, we live in the cloud Olympics, and if anything, I think back to that point, it's there. We agreed that otherwise. In a vacuum, strongmen will rule the world, so we need to take care of the lesser and be compassionate. But to that point, and where I agree with you, is that I think we've lost a sense of the most important person in your life should be you, not anybody else, and then anybody else, right?
Like, I mean, yeah, that makes sense,
right? Like, for example,
to an extent, I would say.
To an extent, right? Like, well, if it comes, like let's push to the extremes. Push comes to shove, life or death.
In that case, yeah. If you're like, let's say, you're trying to like kill me, and I'm like, it's either I die, you die. It's like you're gonna die,
unless there's like another reason, right? Like a child or a parent, right? When it's you or them, that's where you might make the choice of other, right?
Of course, yeah.
And I think so. But I live my life by two tenets on whether I give a crap of what anybody else thinks about decisions that I make in my life, right? And they're one, are you helping me in any way, right? This is a kind of like a blanket coverall that covers friends, family, workplace, right? Your workplace, you can make an argument that they're helping you by giving you income in exchange for labor, your family, filial relationship, all this other stuff, right? Makes sense because in my life, at least, that's some of the doesn't mean I'm gonna follow exactly what they do, but I'm gonna listen to you. It matters to me what you think to some degree. And the second one is, are we fucking? Because let's not pretend that whoever we're like intimate with, it's not gonna have or on a day-to-day basis, is not gonna inception us in some way or have some effect on us.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
And if option A or B don't apply, then I literally could care less about what somebody's opinion is about that.
Oh, 100%. I don't care. It's easy being in comedy to care about what other people think, but you just have to be like, I'm never going to, like, when I was, not really when I was first starting out, but a little while ago, I used to tell this joke all the time about, like, dating trans women and stuff. And the joke itself there's nothing offensive about it.
Like Natalie Mars,
Yeah. So, so the joke, the punchline pretty much is, like, it's like, I always talk about dating trans women because you date trans women, you get the best of both worlds. When I start with that, people automatically go, oh, he's being offensive, meaning like trans women have penises and da-da-da. Well, I end with the punchline. I go, because you get big fake tits and someone that knows where they want to eat dinner.
That's a great joke. That's a good joke. That's a good joke.
I'm like, it's not even offensive. Like, so first of all, if you're a trans woman, then you were once a man, according to yourself. And the joke more is that women just don't know where they want to eat.
Yeah.
So that's the best of both worlds. You get the tits and you get someone that, yeah. I remember telling this joke, and this girl I could tell she got so upset. So I went up to her and I was like, hey, you know, like, I just want you to know, like, it's just a joke. Like, I don't mean it. Like, I have people that are friends that are trans or whatever that I've told the joke to and they loved. And she's like, it's just like, she goes, as long as you're not like a dick in real life. And I was like,
You're
okay.
a comic. You're supposed to say whatever's the funniest. And what's the funniest is not always correlated with what's
exactly. And if you don't laugh
nicest.
at it, I don't care. Like, and then she was like, she's also like, maybe, because I do a lot of crowd work too.
Yeah.
Love doing crowd work. And she was, maybe next time, write some jokes instead of like talking to the crowd. And I went, okay. Yeah, I know. Of course. Thank you for your impact. And ever since then, I don't give a shit, and I haven't apologized to anybody else that gets offended by a joke. Because I'm like, it's a joke. I don't care. Like, I say stuff on my podcast, and I'm like, I don't care.
It doesn't matter. What's the name of your podcast, by the way?
It's called the Don't Tell My Mom podcast.
Oh, I've seen the promo on that.
Yeah. We
doesn't that take place in New York also? Didn't I see it like? Did you do it with somebody else?
No. So I went to Connecticut for a wedding, and then I went to New York. And I was passing. I have a bunch of stickers that I bought, and I was all over New York just putting them out, taking pictures of them, stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah. So, yeah. But no. So that's what we do it down here.
Okay. Yeah. No. Well, I'll have to watch it. I'll subscribe.
Well, thank you. I'm gonna pretend you said you watch it all the time. But
I mean, hey, cut. I watch this all the time, and you should too.
Nice. I'm just kidding. No one listens to it. It's fine.
It's all right. Nobody's gonna listen to this.
Oh, perfect. I can say that. That's even better. I can say whatever I want.
This is an episode without Andy. Nobody's looking at us.
Okay.
Yeah. No. Do you know who Giannis Pampas is? A comedian.
I'm not like fully familiar, but
Yeah.
I know, like, yeah.
He has this joke where he's like, it's also on trans subject, and it's like, he's like, if you trick me, and like all the way into there, and I don't know that you're a guy, you're getting cracked open.
I've heard that. Yeah, there was we used to always joke about. I'm sure it's a joke that's already been told a million times, but like my friends and stuff, we'd be like, well, as long as it's as long as it's smaller than yours, it's not gay. Like,
That's a great joke. That's a great joke.
As long as it's smaller, it's not gay. You just pretend it's a giant clit.
Yeah. This I'm gonna have to edit the shit out of this.
Yeah, it's fine. Sorry.
No, but I want to touch on something you were saying earlier with comics, and because I think I started doing comedy probably roughly a year and a half ago.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Okay, yeah.
I'd been thinking about it for a long time. But most of my stuff is off the cuff. Like most of my jokes, like especially my funniest jokes on stage came up off the cuff, probably on stage.
Yeah.
But I saw like this thing where all of a sudden, like, and I came from Peru. Peru is a very image-dominated culture.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like think of 50s in the U.S. Kind of like that type of breadwinner. Social circles.
Yeah.
I have fought valiantly against it. I moved here, my parents divorced. I'm sure I had some trauma, right? But I kind of like, and in that, I kind of like gained the freedom to kind of like look at things that don't make sense from an outsider's perspective. And all of a sudden, I've seen, I'm 37. I've seen the birth of the internet, right? Like, I've seen it all of a sudden take over everybody's lives, right? And I've seen it amplify this. To amplify the ego within ourselves, right? I don't know anybody. I have this saying where I don't trust anybody at work that I work with or anybody unless I've had a beer with them because I don't know you. I don't know if you are you or the image that you're trying to project on here, right?
How fake are you? Yeah,
exactly. And especially with comics, I keep seeing this trend. I think comics should be egoless, right? Like you should not be able to be an influencer comic in a way because it requires being a little bit on the outside. And if all of a sudden you're having to chase the crowd, then I think your art falters because then all of a sudden you're no longer having that outside perspective. You're also looking for engagement, looking for not getting deplatformed, not getting demonetized, right?
Yeah,
and I think that can poison the well.
Yeah.
And I see like. I almost got canceled like almost right out of the start of comedy. I don't know if I ever told you the story.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, so I was on Kill Tony like 2 weeks
Oh,
after I
shit.
started comedy.
That's awesome.
Right, it was the Alex Jones episode.
Of Artura Lorenzo.
Arturo Lorenzo. Arturo Lorenzo.
Even better.
It was
Even better.
Not only that, I lived in Austin for like 6 years until last September. It's a dump now. Don't let anybody fool you about it. You know,
All those great comedy stores that are opening.
yeah,
up.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's literally just. It's kind of like the marketing of a town that you go there. Oh, this is not like the marketing.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
they
yeah.
got.
Yeah.
But you go up every week, and they always put you in a bullpen. You know, it gets further and further from you ever being able to see the crowd. So I would actually buy tickets to the show. Bought tickets to the show. I'm like, I'll sign up, and I had a regular professional job. I'm like, I love comedy. I love watching comedy. Right? I don't know who's gonna go up. So, and at least I get a seat.
Yeah.
So I was sitting there like any other week. I'm like, my never area it's called. I'm like 3 beers deep, and all of a sudden, I'm like, oh crap, right? So I went through a little bit quick through my set. And I wasn't really nervous through a set except at the interview portion. Okay, I got a little bit of like, you know, you get a little hot, you know, a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
warm.
yeah. Tell me about it.
And and they asked me where, you know, oh, what do I do? And I'm like, I'm in tech, right? And they're like, oh, and Red Band's like, oh, Tesla. And I'm like, no, this company, you know, that I'm not gonna repeat here. But so, you know, my name is an alias in case anybody wants to get me fired this time. Uh, Eventually, you know, actually, it's not an alias. It is my real name, but it is not my legal name per se.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so even if I said the name, nobody should have been able to really find me, right?
Right.
Like, I didn't even think about it. I really, blew it off. Not even less than a month in, maybe, I get a call from HR. They're like, "Oh, hi, are you this?" I'm like, "Yes." They're like, "Oh, we called because somebody placed a complaint, you know, to HR." And then they gave me a rundown. Were you on, a show, Kill Tony or whatever? This person obviously doesn't know any of the show.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
had to have her read me out back. She's like, well, somebody made a comment that you made certain jokes about, like these categories, right? Like Catholics, gays,
Oh,
like,
jeez.
and just like, it's almost like you can only joke about things if you are one, right? First of all, I was raised Catholic.
Yeah.
My last roommate was gay. Like
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
heard two guys like banging out, because I fell asleep on the living room couch and my roommate's room was on that floor and I was
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
other
yeah.
floor. And I woke up and I'm like, here, and I'm like, oh, that's not.
Is someone moving the couch?
That's
Yeah.
like, that's yeah, exactly. It's like, are they moving the fridge upstairs? And not for me, but more power to you. And I always told them, I'm like, find yourself. You have that beautiful prince. Hopefully, he has a for you. Like, I don't
Yeah.
care. Sucks as many dicks as you want. It literally, like, if anything, you're just helping me. You're literally taking males out of the pool.
Yeah,
you
you're
know,
yeah,
like-
yeah. Now can you start doing that to straight guys so that way it
Yeah,
even
yeah,
helps that even
exactly,
more?
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, and then go with white guys, and then you work up the chain.
Yeah.
White guys, Asians.
White guys are in the bottom
Yeah.
of the totem pole now. It kind of sucks. No, I'm just kidding.
No. The thing is, like,
We still rule.
I have a joke, like how about how white people should be able to be proud, like not
Yeah.
too proud, like not like
Just proud enough.
uniforms and crosses proud, but like like you care about your lawn proud, or my HOA, my property value goes up. And guess what? Like, let's talk about. Have you heard about the Kanye thing, the Ye thing?
Yeah. I think it's hilarious.
I think it's hilarious, right? Like, because we live in a world, and this is 100% of what I'm against. I came to America, freedom of speech, right? All of a sudden, freedom of ideas. We shouldn't be able to just shut out ideas, or guess what? If you don't like the idea, go after the individual person, like to
Yeah,
try to
yeah,
like
yeah.
discredit them or whatnot. You win with better ideas. And I have the people are all of a sudden like being like, no, we won. I'm right, and now you have to subscribe. Yeah, guess what? That's how wars start. You
Yeah.
can't just be like, if somebody doesn't agree with you, there's a meeting in the middle. And if you can't agree on that point, guess what? You agree on a different point, right?
Yeah,
Because
and-
if you're able to agree on a different point and you're able to have that dialogue, then maybe I start looking, you're like, you know what? This guy that's not such an asshole as he seems on this topic, right? Maybe there's another way to go about it. That's not either of our answers, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. The fact that, dude, I remember when, well, first of all, the Kanye thing, why it's hilarious. He's doing it to show that there's so much, like, not irony. What's the word?
Absurdism? I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. Like, because he's showing that, like, okay, so you guys followed these whole people that were like, yeah, Black Lives Matter, da 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 da. Which, by the way, I drove by a house like on the way up here.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a giant bed sheet like hanging out over their house that said Black Lives Matter, but it was like in really bad spray paint, so it just looked like a horror thing, like a really scary thing. I was like, oh geez. But he's just showing like you guys follow this whole thing that was like Black Lives Matter, and then all this stuff in the news comes out, and they're like, they bought mansions. You didn't actually get any of the money, like da 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 da.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so he was like, yeah, like the White Lives Matter, like it's like he's just being like facetious, and you're just
Yeah.
taking it as
It's like it's like the Patriot Act, you know, like the Patriot Act. It's like it's because image has taken the actual substance.
Yeah.
Patriot Act was really bad, right? And people get, and that's the thing with the speech, right? All of a sudden, you can't be critical about anything Black Lives Matter because Black Lives Matter, in my point of view, is three things. You have the organization,
yeah,
Black Lives Matter. You have the zeitgeist of the thought of what Black Lives Matter means, right? Like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
don't
yeah.
get killed by the cops. I think most people can agree with that, right? And but once again, I think we live in a world where we treat symptoms and not root causes, right?
Of
So that's
course.
what, you know.
yeah.
It's about poverty. It's not about rich versus poor. It always has been, you know. Like
No, yeah.
yeah, I come from a different country, right? Like in our country, like, and well, we'll go into that part later, right? And then there's the BLM. I forget what the other part is, but at the end of the day, the Kanye thing is like I was watching, and I'll have to play it for you in a second, and we'll have to talk about it. This Rebel HQ girl, and it was this, I don't know, redheaded blonde girl talking about how what Kanye wore, you know, like it's like racist or something, and I'm like, what world am I living in today? Right? Like to the point where he's like, oh, by saying White Lives Matter, he's actually saying it against Black Lives Matter, and it's always like he's calling out the ridiculousness of it. At least he's an artist. I don't agree with Kanye, right? But the fact, if anything, I would have agreed with him wearing it less if the reaction hadn't been as overt. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
now it's not just about what it says on his shirt, which, okay, you can see a troll or whatever, and I don't care at the end of the day. I don't.
Yeah, he just
Kanye's life is inconsequential to mine, you know?
what he does means absolutely nothing to me.
Yeah, he's not helping me, and we're not fucking. Yeah,
You might be closer to that second one than anything at some point.
exactly.
Yeah.
But then everybody like calling him out as a racist or whatever. It's like, you're insane. I want you to pull yourself back, and like this whole ego trip now, because people can no longer be selfish if they're white, right? Now you have to show your ego, especially white women. Sorry, white women. I don't know
I'm
what
not.
happens to other causes. Like it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I have to defend fucking Hispanics or whatever, right? Like it's like,
Yeah.
I don't need your help. Listen, like I just need the opportunity to be able to speak freely. You know, so I don't need you to all of a sudden call me a racist. Listen, I didn't oppress any people, right? Like, and I think, and I come from South Florida. There it's white, Hispanic, and black. And guess what? Depending on how I was in the past, I was slightly different. My vocabulary I worked at a nightclub bar, right?
Yeah.
And in that nomenclature, like, you know, the whites, browns, and blacks, since we're getting down to the colors of skins, would use the N-word in camaraderie. This is 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But it was never like, and when I was in high school, it was me and like three of my white buddies, and we would call each other that word, and it was never about like kind of like that's gay. Was never about being homosexual.
Oh,
you know?
of course. Yeah. I used to like, oh, that's gay. And then they're like, and now it's like, how would you like it if I said that was straight? I'm like, well, that's not funny.
Yeah, it's not as funny. You
It's
know?
not as funny.
And that's gay is only funny if the person is not gay, because it really isn't.
Exactly. Because if they're gay, it's like,
Yeah, it's like it'll always be the opposite of whatever the person is, because that's the only reason why it's
yeah.
funny, or like it's a pun, you know, like, or especially that's gay, you know, thing, and it's the meaning of words, right? For example, somebody just got in trouble for it. It was something about Black Panther, right? And I went to my
Who knows? Yeah.
to my girlfriend. I have this outfit. You'll have to see it. It'll become better. And I was, thanks, baby. I'm like, Wakanda forever, you know? Like, and she's like, oh, you can't say that. I'm like, is she? Of course, it was a reaction, but I have a feeling she's like, okay, wear that to the movie theater. And you're right. I think a lot of people would have an issue if I would say Wakanda forever, my man. You know, like, and
I don't think she's wrong. I think there would be people like that, but I think it'd be a lot of white people that would be upset
Yeah.
more than it would be black people. Because more times than none, the other races that when something happens, like I remember when I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No.
When I think it was Mario Party or it was one of the Mario games came out, he could have a sombrero and a poncho on,
Yeah.
and white people were like, "This is racist," da da da. And then all these Mexican people were like, "No, that's representation, like that,
Yeah.
like we want that." And then, but because of all these white people,
Yeah. Oh, you know
Yeah.
what? Did you ever remember the show, the React channel? They used to. They had the Fine Brothers had a React thing,
oh
and they
yeah,
had
yeah.
Hispanics react or Latinos react.
Yeah.
By the way, it's Latino or Latina. I understand the confusion in English since it's not a gender language, but
I don't
yeah.
use Latinx. I think it's stupid.
It's stupid.
It's the
Listen,
dumbest thing.
The only people that think that Latinx is a thing is second generation children of Latinos that don't actually know how to speak or write the language, and they're so distanced from their identity that they're literally American. That's why they're calling it Latinx.
Yeah.
They don't understand it.
Our generation sucks.
Yeah,
But-
it's maybe a little bit too much calling. I don't know what happened, but it's something. I remember talking to a Gen Zer. Latino people have more fucking problems to worry about, other problems to worry about than what they're called, right?
Yeah, everyone does.
And it's like, oh fuck, I lost it. But what were we just talking about? God damn it,
Great question.
I get too high.
No,
You
it's
know?
fine.
Do you get high?
No.
Oh, okay. Cool,
Yes.
cool. I got some vapes. I got some vapes.
It depends. Are you a
I'm
cop?
I'm gonna
or-
cut this out. No. I
Oh,
got
okay,
some
then
vapes.
yeah, I do.
There's probably some vapes lying around that I need to hide.
Oh, sick.
Uh,
No, I do. What were we talking about? We're talking about like Latinx people. We don't like use Latinx, and then like
it was right before that.
the wearing your Wakanda Forever outfit.
Oh,
to
Wakanda
the-
Forever. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate
Which
it.
is just a giant purple suit. That's what you said, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's
It's called your Easter Sunday suit.
It's what Django wore. You know.
And the opening scenes.
Yeah, but it's like all of a sudden, it's like okay, by allowing the verboten speech of just to take over, you can see that it all of a sudden becomes wider, right?
Yeah.
And you don't like. I've never seen like if you go when it was on the dating apps. Oh, if you're conservative, don't swipe on me,
Oh, I
or
couldn't,
whatever.
dude. I'm so glad I'm done with that bullshit. 'Cause
Yeah.
I hated that. Like, if you
Same.
support Trump, swipe. First of all, even if I did or didn't or whatever, the fact that your entire personality is based on hating one person, I hate you. So now I have
Yeah.
to put in my bio if you support Chelsea, swipe or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, basically, I want us to bring back that. I don't care. I don't care about politics. Like because
I don't give a shit.
I don't care.
They all
because-
hate us. All politicians hate us.
Yeah, it's all about rich versus poor. So 100%. And guess what? Like I voted for Obama. I voted for Obama twice.
Yeah, we'll do
You
it the
know?
third time.
Yeah. And guess what? Like I would have voted even if he had been born in Japan. You know, like
if he was white, I would have voted for him.
yeah, that's a deep cut to Peru actually did voted the president, a guy that wasn't born in Peru, but they didn't know it.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, Alberto Fujimori. He actually did some good. Also,
Heard that
stole-
last name, and they were like, "That's Peru.
well,
That's
the-
Peruvian."
the thing is, like, we have a large in Peru. We have black, Asians, like all the colors. Like in Peru, I am blanco. I am white. That's why I have
Oh,
this
that's
joke.
right,
That I'm
yeah.
like just a Southern American. Southern American, just a Southern white American.
Yeah.
But there's a large Chinese and Japanese immigration, especially in the turn of the 20th century.
Yeah.
So, and they were ultra woke. They're like, oh, of course. But the guy did end up, he solved that terrorism issue that I told you about, right? Martial law.
Yeah. Sick.
And he stole a bunch of money. That shows that, that's
Who
the most
doesn't?
Peruvian thing he has done. Like all presidents, almost all Peruvian presidents, if you look it up, they stolen money in the recent.
Oh, dude, all politicians. Have you seen like those things that are like when they got into office and when they left?
Oh, dude, there was a guy that left. He conned the Peruvian government for a bunch of money to create this electric train, and left it like the just the piers in shambles for literally 20 years. Left, came back, got elected again.
He's like,
I
"Yo,
know,
I know the
yeah,
first
yeah,
time wasn't that great, but
Yeah,
this
yeah.
time, it's like when you like try to hype a girl up with how you're having sex. You're like, I'm gonna fuck you all night, and then like you just go for like 30 seconds, and you're like,
Yeah.
next time I promise it's gonna be a lot better.
Yeah. That's why I no longer use it. I'm like, I'm gonna eat your. And I'm like, I can do
Yeah.
that no matter what.
I can have a great conversation with you, but no, that's. I saw a video going back to the Wakanda of everything, And this guy, it was a white guy, kind of the same Mario thing, in a poncho, mustache, big sombrero. He went to his college, asked black people, asked white people, asked Asian people. He goes, "Do you think my costume's offensive?"
Yeah.
They're like, "Yeah, I think it's offensive. Like you're a stereotype." Da, da, da. Then he went to this Hispanic part of town and literally asked like older Hispanic people, like Mexican people. He's like, "Do you find my, costume offensive?" And they're like, "No, I like it. They're like, it looks
Yeah.
good on you." And he's like, "Yeah, because it's not like you're not in the costume and being like, oh, I like to drink and I'm sleepy and da, da,
Yeah,
da.
yeah. You're not saying, oh, this is Martha. This is you. This is the costume of you.
Yeah, I'm
right?
not being like, this is you. Yeah, that would be like, that's not me. That's just like a thing. Like, I think like they took like Speedy Gonzalez out of shit. 'cause
I
they
want to
were
record
like,
you some content, wearing a costume, and be like to people, "This is you." Just see what happens.
I was gonna, it's like looking in a mirror, isn't it? I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's called How to Get Punched in the Face.
Yeah. Hey, but then you get rich, because guess what?
Yeah.
Saying stuff like that is not illegal, but getting punched for it is.
It's like, yeah, that's all that matters. As long as I punch his face, that's how I make my millions. But yeah, dude, people are so stupid nowadays. It's almost like I get on Twitter to like, because I have to promote my own stuff, but then like just seeing stuff that trends and like just seeing things that like people post, and it honestly like takes the wind out of me to see just how stupid people are.
It's really quite sad. I was talking to a Gen Zer, right, and this is I just remembered where they told me, they're like, oh well, your generation, develop a sense of humor because with all the trauma or whatever, you develop a sense of humor, right? Like because it was a very don't cry or kind of very individualistic
Yeah.
society. Like we came up and we were taught in school, right? Like you have to be mindful of what everybody else's feelings are about it, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe that's why they identify, and that's where I'm coming to. The most important person should be you because you're experiencing life, right? There's some, and this is where we turn back to philosophy, right? Like there is this, I don't know, section of philosophy called absurdism,
Yeah.
right? There's a bunch of philosophers on this, but Albert Camus, Camus, is a big proponent of it, and he writes in one of them, the only or the most essential philosophical question that exists is, should I kill myself or not? And he goes into it that a lot of people look for meaning in their lives.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, and this can probably, it's probably can help us get to the root cause of some of the ills of today. And but this is the rub. The universe is so indifferent that it has shown us, for all accounts, that there is no objective meaning to life. So all of a sudden, like we are humans, right? Like we are the only species on this planet that is not living in the now. We can project into the future and we can remember the past, right? If anything, our body has probably evolutionarily given us such a gift of the ability to forget our trauma, which we've kind of tried with this social media, like, we can cancel and come back, right? Because we're no longer able to grow. And, but since we're searching for meaning, what's our future? What's this all about? We're conscious, right? And the post said there is no meaning except for the fact that every human can develop their own meaning to their life. That's the beautiful thing about it. No objective meaning. Everybody can develop their meaning, right? And here comes the rub. It's like, well, since there's no meaning, humans are going to take one of these three paths. Well, if there's no meaning to life and I don't have one, should I kill myself or not? Right? It's probably very to what's going on in the day to day, right? Because if there is no meaning to it. The other route, the second route, is faith. Well, the universe shows me that there's no meaning because all these things happen, right? Like we were going earlier, like, oh, why doesn't God, right, or whatever? All these things happen. Well, this doesn't make sense. It's showing me that there's no meaning, but it doesn't make sense because I'm looking for meaning. Well, I need faith, and that can be religious faith, it can be aliens, it can be whatever, the capitalists, like the patriarchy, it's I'm Alex Jones and there's green monsters. And that's very easy because it kind of like allows you to suspend your ability. It's fucking hard to find meaning in life, right? Because it requires you to find who you are first, right? How can you create the meaning to your own life it requires you being you and being the most you. Otherwise, you're probably gonna go in faith and attribute somebody else's meaning to your life. And I think that's what's happening right now with these mobs. They are devoid of meaning. They're kind of like you can sometimes, and that's why I love comedy, because comedy is such a primal thing that sometimes they'll laugh without knowing. If you catch them, if they don't see you coming, they will laugh. And you can really see them for who they are, even though they may not even realize, or they haven't been playing somebody else's meaning to their life for so long. And guess what? When that meaning gives you clout and gives you a reward and adoration, then it's very easy to rationalize that that's the meaning to your life.
Yeah.
And then the third path, the one that I love, rebellion. Life has no meaning except for the one that we create. So, create that. And he has a bunch more stuff, but that's basically a tenet, three people on the surgeons claim that if life has no meaning, there's suicide, faith, or rebellion, right? And the rebellion takes an act, it's because we're all subject to penance, right? It requires active thing. It's like, well, it requires, looking into yourself, which is great if you smoke, because, plenty of time to do that. So what do you think about the three things? Have you ever heard about this guy?
I haven't heard about the guy, but I feel like I've definitely heard that the what you were saying, like the three things. So like I said earlier, like I grew up Southern Baptist. I grew up in a church, Christian, all that stuff. So we were always taught, your meaning is to go out, obviously spread the word, and this, which I do a terrible job of.
You're doing great on this podcast.
I'm not doing that great. No, but so that was kind of that's kind of what I always learned and stuff like that. And that's what you were taught. So and like the rebellion thing I get to, it's like, if you don't see meaning in this and whatever, I personally, I think there is meaning. I don't know. I mean, like I said, from growing up and like what I learned, there's meaning, but I guess like it is hard to wake up one day. Like, let's say you weren't raised in church, you weren't raised in any religion. You just like woke up one day and you're like, because as a comic, I think every comic's ever thought about killing themselves, but you're just like, yeah, but I'm just opening up. Yeah. Oh man. Yesterday. No. You're like, we're gonna cut this. No, but it is hard. It is hard. And like when things like we talked about earlier, trauma and stuff. Like if you're living in that town, where like car bombs are going off and shit, you're like, damn, dude, what am I here? Like I live in a horrible place. Yeah. Like nothing going on for me. I do think there are people that do need to create their own, meaning or find what their meaning is. I think everyone has a meaning, like whether it could be huge like Elon Musk, or it could be small like you just helped like a dude on a bus one day or something like that. So I think everyone has their own meaning. And I think another problem we have is we put that on ourselves too early in life. Like, so I'm 26 and I've been doing comedy for 7 years now, depending on how you count COVID and stuff.
Okay. Well, that's a long time.
Yeah, I suck. But but like I'm putting this on myself because I watch like other comedians and I watch all these other people around me that are like getting all these opportunities, and I'm like, why am I not in that opportunity? So you put it on yourself and you're like, what am I doing? I'm 26. Like there's so much, like 10 years from now, I could be headlining Madison Square Garden. And then I'll be looking back on this. And I'm like, why was I so stressed out about, 26 years old, or like people in the workforce? They're like, why didn't I get that promotion? Like I should have that. Where it's like, you can't put that stuff on you too early. But, and then you said, what was it? Faith, rebellion, and what was the first one?
Suicide. In that sense, like I'm not necessarily against faith, right? Because I almost would put the atheism under faith as
atheism
well,
is 100% a type of faith. In fact, they've done like a thing where it's like it almost takes more faith to be like, there's nothing.
Oh, 100%. The thing is like they're it's I see atheism, the alien thing, as faith, right? It's once again are trying to find understanding and meaning in things that we don't understand, right?
Yeah.
And to the point that like and I think, and when I mean faith, I mean, I don't mean so much in the religious concepts as I mean the like attribution of meaning based on an organization that you subscribe to, right?
I get it. Like a belief.
Because I would tell you that, I believe in God, right? Maybe not in the way that most people view God, right? If I had to explain it, which is difficult to explain, the simplest explanation I would say is like the reason why atoms react in our universe the way they do. Like what gives why are the laws of physics as they are, right? Just a little bit different. Like if gravity behaves a little bit different, things are much different, right? Like so.
Yeah. If really this much closer to the sun, or we were this or
Yeah.
this or that. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be embodied. It can be disembodied, right? Like we attribute a lot of like anthropomorphic stuff to our gods, right? But I mean more in the I told my mom, I tell everybody like the universe tends towards balance, right? So this also is the concept of karma, putting good into the world, right?
Yeah.
And it falling back, and it makes you richer. Also, taking life, you can always take. I guess I think we're rediscovering old tropes like glass half empty, glass half full, but I think that people have forgotten the meaning of them, right? Like
Yeah.
in the fact that I think I saw this on a Joe Rogan podcast where life is all about how you take it. You can, and he mentioned it, I'm almost saying it word for word, where you date somebody and let's say you're dating a girl, she crashes her car. And then she, and I'll post the clip on here, but he's really funny. He's like, and then you have to hear for her. She's like, oh yeah, one time I crashed my car and I can never get it again.
Oh,
It's like, that was 20 years ago. you
Yeah.
know?
Oh, chicks love holding on to crashing the car.
yeah.
Like they love that. They were like, I had a squirrel when I was like 18. I first started driving. I'm like, you're 43. Shut up. Like.
Yeah, but then you meet some where they're like, like they look at it like, oh, that sucked,
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, because, and I talked about this, Andy, right? Like, there's zero worth in worrying things that are outside of your control.
Yeah.
And especially everything in the past is outside of your control. So it makes no sense to worry it. Sure, it makes sense to learn from it because you can use that information in the future. But worry, like, there's nothing you can do about that, right? Like, there's nothing I can do about Ukraine. Literally nothing. Like, there's literally, and even down to politicians, people can't, like, vote in your local elections, run for controller, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing that you can maybe do something, right?
Yeah.
Like, but it's like, and so back to that thing. So it's more of like even the belief in God, right? Like I'm not like in, and you've talked about it, right? If we're lucky enough to have children, yeah, I see a benefit to raising the religious up to a certain point. I like to see it how I was raised. I was raised Catholic. I make a joke that there's no real Catholics because it has that loop. You can just say that you're really sorry, and then all sins are forgiven, right?
Yeah.
And guess what? If you're at the point where you're looking to turn back into Catholicism, you're probably very sorry. Like so.
Yeah.
who
I just like
cares?
the wine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. The wine and the little cookie, that they give you. It's like, and depending on the priest, you'll fall asleep right after that cookie or not.
Yeah. The good ones.
And then he'll get the cookie. But
That's why I got back into it.
oh yeah, you became a priest.
hmm
Oh, yeah.
No, altar boy. I just really was into.
Yeah, you
I
made
really
it.
like blacking out.
You made it out of Waco.
Yeah.
You one of the people that
I just really enjoy walking with a limp. But you talk about the not worrying about stuff. I actually experienced that. So like I have been like a worrier my entire life. Like always like, oh my God, when is this going to happen? What is happen? I remember I went skydiving a while ago and get up in the plane, you're flying, you're going up 13,000 feet. And so everyone, they're like, when you get in a plane, there's no like seats. There's like a bench because you have to slide off of it.
Okay.
So I was like 6 to go. You saw your friend go up and then they're gone. And then you're like, oh, so you're getting more and more worried. And like, then
I would have anxiety. Yeah.
Oh, I was
All day.
freaking out. So then I'm looking out the window. They go, we're going on 3. And at that point, you're like, well, I can't say no. Like, they're all going to make fun of me and call me like a pussy. So, yeah. You said what?
No, keep going. I'm listening.
Oh, I thought you said you're going to go to the bathroom. And I was like, okay, I guess I just talked to. That's so funny. You're like, dude, I don't want to hear this. No.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
So they're going down. Right?
Yeah, so
no, my
so-
camera's about to die. So I need
No,
to-
sorry. My hearing's been so awful lately, but I thought you were just like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. All right, you just edit yourself in. No, so I'm up looking out the window, and I'm literally like about to throw up because I'm so like full of anxiety and just like so fearful about to happen. And then once we drop, all that fear is gone because at that point I just mentally accepted I'm either gonna land or I'm gonna land. Like I'm gonna land. It's either gonna be hard or alive. But so yeah.
Andy wanted to go skydiving. I don't see a need. I convinced her, right? Like, I do understand what you mean because have you been to the zip line over near Asheville? Like,
No, I've been wanting to, but after you go skydiving, you're like, zip line.
I could see.
Yeah,
What
you're
is this
like,
for kids?
Sex with condoms. I don't want to do that.
But Yeah, and I was like, what is it like? At 37, like I've had plenty of thrills. You know,
Yeah.
I've almost died 3 times. I've been pretty lucky.
Jeez.
I'm like, yeah, I'm good. You know, like,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I am not against. I'm not afraid of heights, right? Whenever I go to like a cliff or something, I love taking edge,
Yeah.
cliff edge pics. Um, and I told her, I'm like, let's learn how to fly a plane.
Oh, that's even
And
better.
then yeah, she's down for that. If we can ever afford her, of course, we'll see.
All the money you make off this episode will probably help you out.
All the money, all the sponsors that we lost with the trans jokes at the beginning of the episode.
they dropped out real quick.
Maybe we'll make this a Patreon episode.
There you go. I remember I had Manscaped as a sponsor, and the first ad read I did for them, I had two people on. I had this friend of mine who's also a comic, and then this girl I know, she's a rapper. And I was trying to go into the ad to make it organic. It was about Manscaped, and I was like, the guy's name is JD. He had a podcast too, and I was like, JD, you like to keep it clean down there, right?
Yeah.
Shave like your stuff. He goes, nah, not really. So my wife prefers it hairy, and I was like, okay, well, like, and I was asking her, I was like, what you like it when a guy's like, she's like, no, I don't really mind, and I'm like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
They didn't stick around. Manscaped didn't stick around because I was like, not selling their product.
Well, how did you like? Oh, okay. So this is great. This is great info.
Yeah.
Because I meant to ask you earlier, and I guess, did we cover? Yeah, we covered everything.
Covered a lot. Sorry.
Yeah, but you host a podcast,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
You host a comedy show.
I do.
How long have you been doing your podcast?
When I first started it, I wasn't as serious about it. So technically, I think it's been 2 years. We've only had 2 seasons, which we're about to do a season finale and then open up season 3, hopefully.
How do you measure seasons when you're doing that? Like, do you pick a stopping point or?
No, I'm kind of just random with it.
Mm-hmm.
And like our first season, quote unquote, was like a bunch of friends I had on, I knew, stuff like that. Then I got into season 2 where I was like, I'm gonna get way more serious about this. Like, actually, you can like tell a difference.
Yeah.
Got new equipment. Oh, excuse me, all this other stuff. I had like Slobby Robbie from Netflix come on. I had Ralph Sutton from Gas Digital came on.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a lot more professional, like a cooler podcast.
Like, do you have these connections yourself, or are you just like, hey, I reached out to them on Twitter?
I've honestly just been like blowing up people's inboxes, like Instagram. Like I reached out to like Andrew Wang. Yang.
Yeah.
Oh, was that racist? Oh, damn it! Did I do a racism?
I forgot I saw that movie. It's like Ling Ling, Haro. Gervais. Yeah.
Yeah. Like just reaching out to everybody. Like I also use there's a website I use called matchmaker.fm, which is hilarious because you think that's like a dating website, but it's not. Other podcast hosts are on there. You can like reach out to them, try to get them
Get
on.
the fuck out of here. Okay, that's cool.
It's free too.
No way.
But like Sabi Robbie, I just like shot him a message on Instagram. He's like, yeah, dude, I'll do it. And I was like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna have do you ever like watch wrestling?
Yeah.
Remember WCW and stuff?
I remember, WCW, WWF before they,
Do you remember Buff Bagwell?
No.
All right, so he was just like super jacked dude who was gonna be like he kind of teamed up with Scott Steiner for a while. I have like random celebrity. I have Buff Bagwell and Slobby Robbie's phone number, like just random people's celebrities' phone numbers. Like I tried to get him to come on, and he wanted to charge me like $100 first, and then like some shit came out where like he relapsed and was like, then trying to do better. And like, you remember
like,
Diamond Dallas Page, right?
Yeah.
So he's chilling. Yeah, so he's chilling with him.
Oh, he's doing the whole like yoga thing. The muscle
yeah.
yoga.
So he does the yoga, but he also like he was there for like Scott Hall. He was there for like everybody like when they go through these drugs and stuff. And so like with Buff Bagwell, I don't want to talk bad about him. I'm not, but this is all stuff you can find out.
Yeah.
Stuff happened. He was trying to get clean again. I remember I called him up because we were supposed to do the podcast. It happened. And then I saw why it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad I didn't send the money yet.
Yeah.
Which gave us $100.
Yeah.
And so I'm not even answering the question you asked. I just
No.
I'm sorry.
This is important. This is interesting stuff.
So I call him up. Hey man, like I saw what happened. Hope everything's doing good. Or I texted him. I was like, hope things doing good. Like, if you ever do the podcast, let me know. Don't want to rush you. I know you're going through some stuff. Calls me up. I'm at work. He's like, hey brother. I'm like, hey man, what's going on? He's like, yeah, I'd love to do the podcast. And I'm like, oh great, dude. I know you're busy. He's like, I'm chilling over here at DDP's house. And I'm like, oh shit. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I know that, we talked about like you coming on. And in my head, I'm like, I know you also said $100.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, yeah, man, for just like $300, man. $300, I'll come on. I was like, 300, dude, for $300, you better put fucking DDP on the phone right now. I was like,
absolutely.
can Diamond Dallas Page come on the phone, come on the podcast?
Yeah.
So I was just like, yeah, man, don't worry. Like, I'll have my producer. I don't have a producer. But I was like, I'll have my producer reach out.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, great, brother. I'll listen. I can't wait to hear from you. I was like, great. He was going to like cut a promo and stuff too.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, as buff back, like with the hat and everything. Like he used to wear like a big like top hat and shit.
Yeah.
Like, that'd have been sick.
Well,
But yeah.
that's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool stories that just never really amount to anything though.
But I like the thinking, because I was telling Andy about this. I'm like, listen, and also we're doing the Manly Girly show where, you can, get smarter, wealthier, healthier, and curious with Manly Girly. And it's very much, maybe not this episode, this might be, but some clips might be Patreon worthy, but it's part of our Patreon because Andy also goes off the cuff, but you know how we were talking about earlier, how everybody is, so, I don't know, uptight about things, right? But the content, there's like a lot of DIY content. I forget where I was going with that. Oh, yeah. And one of the things that we're going to be doing is how to become a comic, and how we produce content, right? You can, like, with the studio shot, like the mixers and all the other stuff. Besides that, we'll also be producing podcasts. Like, we have like go-to podcast scenarios. Like, this is the very static one, right? But we have we filmed Sasha's comedy game show, episode 17 and 18.
Oh, sick. Yeah. I was on that.
We filmed 18, but we edited 17.
Okay.
And which episode were you on?
I was on a way earlier one.
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
like
yeah.
it was me, Maggot Brain. It has to be Elijah Groves, I think is his last name. He didn't
Yeah.
make it. So it was me and Maggot. And I was ripped throughout the
Yeah.
entire episode.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a great like insight, particularly like how to reach out, because right now we're probably gonna have a lot of comics. I moved to North Carolina. Those are most of the people that I know. But we do want to have like professors on, like philosophers, physicists, like everything. We'll probably have a lot of comics because comic, the great thing about comics is that they're great on mic.
Mhm.
You're already used to performing. And back to that other point from earlier is that I want to make the people laugh,
Mhm.
but I don't care if their filter of intellect, if whether they allow themselves to laugh or not, agrees with the joke or not, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to know that the joke's not for you, right? Like right now, if I make like an incest porn joke, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm a single man with no kids. Like I find those jokes funny, right?
Yeah.
But if maybe I had a young daughter, maybe I wouldn't find those jokes.
Yeah, I'd be like,
as
don't
funny.
like I don't yeah.
But that means that because I'm not the audience for the joke, doesn't mean that
Exactly. There's an audience for everything.
because you have to separate the artist from the art. Nobody listen to Michael Jackson anymore. Is the music not good anymore? You
Yeah.
know, what's it? Is it worth all those kids having suffered if we can't listen to his music? That joke's been made plenty of times, but it's people don't think that Tarantino's pro-slavery because he made Django and because he showed some very graphic items. That's the
Right.
thing about art, right? Like art is more about tells more. Your reaction to art tells you more about yourself than it does about the art in itself,
Mhm.
right? Nobody's calling Tarantino a racist piece of shit, right? Like
Mhm.
maybe they are, especially if you saw. Did you ever see the one where they kill vampires with Clooney?
No, which one was that one?
God damn it. I can't think of it right now. Where's my phone? Oh, it's right here. But no, so you wouldn't, any historical person that's depicting slavery, you wouldn't, or particularly a movie, any artistic, right? Or even a painting. What if I wanted to depict a painting of historical like atrocities? Do I have to be part of the group? Like
Right.
can we no longer empathize? Right? Like everything is so concrete. Like it's I don't know. I don't. We're more divided. Like you have to like what like, and back to the Kanye thing. It's funny because I was thinking about the other day, like even with the white pride thing, like I'm like all of a sudden, and I hate being used as a puppet or Hispanics being used as puppets. Like, oh, all of a sudden the minorities, like only can say minority things. Like, it makes no sense. Dave Chappelle said this in his special, right, where he's like, oh, I can say the N word, but they get me in trouble when I said the F word. They're like, oh, well, you can say it because you're not one. And he's like, well, I'm not an N word either. But
Yeah.
you have no problem with me saying it, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, once again, the white lives matter or whatever. In the moment, okay, I could see how counter protesting a BLM march, I could see, okay, maybe they are anti BLM, sure. But just like a hoodie or whatever, right? He's literally making an artistic point. And even if it wasn't, even if they were wearing a White Lives Matter at a Black Lives Matter rally, that is a silent protest, right? That is a peaceful protest,
Yeah.
And with the concept that, I don't hear it's like, oh yeah, I love buying from white-owned businesses, I love, if you said we're a white male-owned business, come shop for us,
Yeah.
and we're proud of our history, like for this, like, but yeah, how long have we done? We've done an hour and 10 minutes.
Really?
I'd love to have you back, bro.
Yeah,
You're a
dude.
great talk.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. This has been Manually Girly. Where can people follow you, and what do you have going on?
Oh, yeah. So you can check me out on Instagram. I'm mostly on there at Hunter Edwards Comedy or Don't Tell My Mom podcast on Instagram.